welcome back to the world of Spirit and Shield. As always, my name is John and I will continue to be your guide on this journey. So, welcome back. I know it's been some time. I was out sick for a little bit. You can probably still hear it a little bit in my voice. But feeling much better and ready to keep going here. Today, we don't have a short story, but we have commentary on our previous short story, which was called Impetus. I hope you guys got a chance to check it out. If you did not, go ahead and check the link right here for the story Impetus, and then come right back. For the rest of you, let's go ahead and dive into a little bit more depth with Impetus. My goal with this story was to try my hand at writing a high-intensity action scene. Not even really sure where, but I got this idea of writing a story that was just a cavalry charge. To me, like it seemed like it would be a good writing challenge because not that much actually happens. I mean, you sit on a horse, you go forwards. I mean, I know there's actually a lot to it, but I figured in terms of writing that scene, it would be a little bit more of a challenge to show some kind of story and to keep the readers engaged throughout it. And like my experiment with the story Men at Arms, I wanted to try my hand a little bit more at writing combat, this time from a different point of view. So here we're actually looking at the Kamashai, who again are mostly nomadic, and they ride horses. You know, it's what they do. Horses and some other creatures, as opposed to the Hellenikins who fight, mainly on foot. They have their cavalry too, but they're mostly like shield and spear type fighters. So to try to achieve that goal of writing a high intensity action scene, I looked at what tools I had available, and I decided that I would write it in first person to give the reader more of a personal feel of, the main character's experience. And also we get more of his personal thoughts, his observations throughout the course of the battle. Another thing I tried to do was use the sounds of battle to do kind of two things. Like one, to immerse the reader with, of course, the sounds themselves, but also to help try to set some sort of pace. And I think pacing with action scenes, and especially battle scenes, is very important because you have, you have the periods like leading up to it where things are kind of slow. Not much is actually happening. You're kind of standing around waiting, but there's that tension. And I think the important thing is that you feel that tension, you feel that sense of waiting. And then when the action starts, pretty much all hell breaks loose. And you want to get that feeling of, well, in this situation you have a cavalry charge. So leading into the actual combat part of it, you have the rhythm of the horses. So I wanted to kind of capture that. And then when you get into the actual battle, the rhythm kind of breaks up a little bit, and it's more of a rhythm of chaos, if that makes any sense. So I'm not sure exactly how well I did with that. And of course, like in the middle of the chaos, you have some moments where it slows down a little bit and then picks up. But again, I'm not sure how well I did with that, so please let me know. The reactions I got to this story so far have been very, very positive, which I was a bit surprised about. Again, this one was largely an experiment. I'm not sure if I'll be able to take these techniques and apply them inside of a novel, which is actually like my overall goal, is to write a series of novels that take place in the world of Spirit and Shield. I'm hoping to use this type of writing and these techniques that I used in this story and others to kind of like enhance those novels. It'll be interesting to use that amount of poetry inside of a novel and see how it kind of comes off. Another technique I used in writing these action scenes was to use, of course, lots of action verbs and short sentences. Again, that has to do with pacing. You don't want to describe every little detail of the battle, and like where, especially, like this drives me nuts, like when people describe like where every little piece is on the battlefield. Your individual soldier, your individual warrior is not going to know that or even care about it. They're going to be focused on what is immediately around them. And you don't really have time for longer thoughts when when someone's trying to kill you and you're trying to kill them. So, and the last main technique that I was kind of trying out in this scene, and I think it actually worked very well, was the use of rhyme. Kind of turning like the more intense action scenes into a bit of a poem. And I'll be honest, like it worked much better than I thought it would. It seems like you can play with the rhythm and the pace of not just the writing but the reading a bit more when you're using rhyme. And when it comes to those battle scenes, I think that really helps to kind of pull the reader in and kind of drag them along with you. So I think like the rhyme is something I'm going to continue to do. I think I'll try to work it in a bit more in the short stories and play around with how to use it without making it seem weird or out of place, but as a natural part of the story. Again, this was largely an experiment. I'm still looking for a lot of feedback on this story and this type of writing, so please let me know. If you know someone who might be interested in this story, please share it with them. Also, if you go to my Patreon page, most of the PDFs of the short stories are locked unless you are a patron. This one I opened up, so you can go and check it out and read the PDF, like the actual script of the writing. I'm really interested to hear what this story sounds like from another reader. So if you are interested in that, go head over to my Patreon page. The link is down below, and pull up that PDF. Go ahead and read it and record it for me. And if you want, you can send it in like either a message, or you can post it on any of my social media accounts. If you're a bit braver and want other people to see, your work as well, go for it. Again, like I'm really interested to hear what this sounds like from other people. Especially if there are any like actors out there who want to try your hand at it. Go for it. Any Morgan Freemans out there. So I think that's it for the writing aspect of this story. Let's go ahead and jump into a little bit more of the world building. One of the comments that I got on this story was regarding the relationship of the warrior, the horse, and the falcon. As far as them being kind of like equal combatants in this battle. Each one has their role to play. Each one is very important. And that kind of goes back to the culture of the Kamashai. They're very much about balance and reliance on one another. And that includes nature and the world around them. And again, one thing that I want to do with this world is do a lot of comparing and contrasting of different cultures. I'm still kind of playing around with what different aspects of culture I'd like to see and play around with in the different cultures in the world of Spirit and Shield. Some of them, like I feel like pretty confident with. Things I'd like to kind of check out, see where they go. Others, I'm still kind of open. So again, that's kind of what this project is for, kind of feeling out this world. Our next story will actually be very interesting. I'm excited about that one. I'll tell you a little bit more about it at the end of this video. One other thing that I wanted to talk about in regards to this story is beast painting. We actually see that at the beginning of the story where they are painting their horses. And the idea of painting your horses before a battle, this is not something I created. This is something that actually goes back to many cultures. In many cultures, including some of the Native American tribes, they actually believed that painting certain symbols on different parts of a horse gave that horse like increased power. So if you wanted your horse to be faster, you paint lightning bolts on the legs and stuff like that. So I took that concept and am using it in this world, but not applying it only to horses, but to all animals and creatures. So you could essentially paint a dragon, enhancing its own natural abilities. We see examples of beast painting actually in a couple of other stories as well. The first one was actually the first story that we had, The Waker of Waves. The main character, Fialina, is met by a painted raven. That's not a type of raven, that is describing the appearance of the raven. In that story, the raven is being used as a messenger bird, so to give it extra strength, extra endurance on its flight, especially with important messages. you paint the ravens before they go out. And again, beast painting is a type of magic in this world. It's used not to give additional traits to animals and creatures, but to enhance ones that they already have. I might change that, but so far, like, I want to keep the magic in this world relatively realistic. I know it's fantasy, but I think, good fantasy should have some level of realism as well. We also saw a little bit of beast painting in the story The Men Who Fight. Some of the horses were actually painted. So it is something that is kind of cross-cultural here, but some cultures definitely use it a bit more than others. Go ahead and keep an eye on my Patreon account as well. I'm planning on putting up some additional content related to beast painting. So go and check that out. It should be up maybe next week sometime. But I'll be going into a little bit more detail as far as like how it works, what it does, what you need to do it, and like some of the limitations as well. So I think that's all for today. As always, thank you again for joining me on this journey. It is an absolute blast and absolute pleasure to have you along with me. Our next story will be coming next week, so stay tuned. That one is called Dragon Breaker. I'm really excited about it. If you like dragons, go ahead and check it out. It should be fun. In that story, we're also going to be checking out the culture of the Opteri. So far, we've only seen one Opteri character. If you'd like to go back and check out The Waker of Waves, that's where we have our only Opteri character so far. So Dragon Breaker, next week, go ahead and mark it on your calendar. One last thing before you leave me today, please, please, please continue to share these stories with your friends and family. One, it's just better to have more people on this journey. It helps me make the stories even better, to hear your commentary and your reactions to them. And two, gives you guys more to talk about, I think conversation is something that people, it's a skill that people have kind of lost over the years. So having an extra topic, something to talk about, and there should be plenty of additional things to talk about within these stories. So go and bring more people along, and we'll have some fun together. All right. Thank you again for all of your support, and I will see you next week. So until then, take care.